Okay, so welcome to the last talk of the day. My name's Anne and I'm the Master Distiller at Bombay Sapphire, which means I oversee all distillery operations down at Laverstoke and lead the team that make every single drop of Bombay Sapphire in the world. Two of my team are actually in the audience today, so I'm really pleased that they're here. Thank you for coming, guys. And I'm accompanied by Sam.
Hello there, my name is Sam Carter. I'm the Senior Brand Ambassador for Bombay Sapphire. I've been working with Bombay for about 9 years now, nearly 23 years in the drinks industry. I absolutely love gin. My job is to talk to people about gin, make gin cocktails, and enjoy some gin occasionally, once in a while.
Once in a while.
Once in a while.
So today, Sam and I are here to talk through 3 of our favourite classic cocktails, and then to present to you our sort of creative modern twist on those classics. Since it's the last talk of the day, we are going to try and keep it quite easy listening. As you can see, there's some nice healthy samples in front of you. And throughout the talk, there are 6 well-crafted gin cocktail questions, which, if you get the answer right, you are in the running to win one of the full-size ice-cold cocktails that Sam will be making. And while Sam's going to be making the drinks, I'm here to talk about the gin we are using in each of them. So as you can tell from the bottles along the front, we've chosen to bring Bombay Sapphire East, and Star of Bombay along with us today. Some of you may have heard me talk about gin at Ginposium before. And if you have, you've definitely heard me moan about the fact I didn't have a GC to analyse my samples and to present science to you. Well, I actually have a GC now. And so, along with my talk about gins, I'm going to be putting up on the screen a comparative trace of some of our gins and talk you through them. It may feel slightly gratuitous, and I really apologise for that, but I'm super thrilled to have the analytical capability and I want to share it with you. Okay, off you go, Sam.
Thank you very much. So the first cocktail, and number 1 cocktail in your palette there, is the classic Dry Martini. To make this, obviously, there's many different recipes for a Dry Martini. On this occasion, we're going to start off with just a little dash of some orange bitters, 10 ml of some dry vermouth, Liqueur in this case, over the ice. So it's a stir drink. And then we're going to use our award-winning Star of Bombay. Thank you, Charles. 50 ml of Star of Bombay. That goes in, and then we're just going to stir it down for a good sort of 15 to 20 seconds. It's funny how trends have changed with the martini. You know, it's been around for several hundred years. People enjoyed it. Quite often it was a lot wetter, and when I say wetter, it had more vermouth in it than the gin. Most probably as in Martinez. Over time, people have liked drier taste. Then people have gone back to a wetter style, drier. And the thing is, there's no such thing as a perfect martini, right? The perfect martini is how you enjoy to drink it. So just going to stir this down. I've got a nice chilled glass here, martini glass, and I'm just going to strain this off into the glass. But before I do that, you can obviously garnish your martinis with an olive, with an onion. I actually quite enjoy to do it with a lemon and an orange on this occasion. So just going to spritz a lemon peel twist in there, and the orange. That's going to pick on the bergamot notes in the Star of Bombay. And then we pour the martini into the glass, and I kind of wash those oils that have gone into the glass around. That way they're not just sitting on the top of the drink, they've mixed through the entire cocktail. And that is just a classic Dry Martini.
Okay, great. So your first sample is the classic Dry Martini, which is just about still chilled. And if you would like a full-size martini, if you can give me the correct answer to which famous silent movie star couple regularly enjoyed Dry Martinis at the Savoy? They're not all this hard, I promise.
Silent movie star couple. Yeah, you're not having it. So not Fred Astaire.
She has a Cardiff-based cocktail named after her.
She does, yeah.
She does. Rum-based cocktail named after her. Surnames like the removal company. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No? Yeah, Mary Pickford. Yeah. We have a winner! Yep, absolutely. So Mary Pickford and her second husband, Douglas Fairbanks, used to enjoy a martini in the Savoy.
Okay, so while Sam preps for his second, or for his modern twist on the martini, I'm just going to give you a quick chat about Star of Bombay. Star was launched in 2015, and the brief to the development team at the time was that we wanted a vapor-infused gin, but that had a bit more flavour intensity, a higher alcohol level, but yet kept that super creamy smoothness. And now, most of you know that if you increase flavour oils in a gin or increase the ABV, it's actually quite hard to still keep it quite a nice, smooth, sipping gin. But the team were really convinced that that's what they wanted. Like all our products, it has the core, what I like to call the Bombay backbone, which is juniper, coriander, angelica, orris, cassia, licorice, almond, lemon peel. Okay, so they're the 8 botanicals that go into Bombay Dry. On top of that, it has grains of paradise and Cuba berries, which are also in Bombay Sapphire. So they're the real core sort of Bombay family botanicals. To make it Star of Bombay, though, all the proportions were mixed up, so they weren't the same proportions as the Bombay Sapphire. And we added in ambretta seed, angelica seed, and bergamot orange. Now, we've got a new gin there, but how did we get the flavour intensity in? So you probably all know that Bombay and all our gins are 100% vapor infused. So unlike steep and boil, if we want to increase the flavour intensity in our gin, we can't just change the maceration time, change the maceration temperature, lower or decrease or increase the ABV of the maceration solution. The only thing we can really do is to try and make that vapor move much more slowly through the infusion chamber. And so that's what happens. In the star distillation, it takes a longer period of time for the distillation to occur than Sapphire, trying to pick up more of those oils. And then to try and combat that higher alcohol and the higher flavour oils, we up the quantity of almonds, which is a real classic way of keeping a gin nice and smooth, but also one of the great side effects of using ambretta seeds in the gin was that it sort of helped support this smooth scaffold as well. Okay,
Perfect.
You
Awesome.
ready?
So moving on to my modern interpretation of a martini, this is going to be super controversial. Now, I'm sure we all imagine our martinis to be stirred. Of course, James Bond had his shaken, but really it was kind of Ian Fleming, right? He was trying to be a bit controversial. And we're definitely being controversial here because, rather than choosing to have your martini stirred or shaken, why not have both, right? So here we've got a martini that's a hybrid. I like to think of it as a little bit of a hybrid of maybe like a gimlet and a martini. So please do bear with me. We're going to start off with a little bit of Italigus bergamot liqueur. So about 10 ml of that. So it's quite new to the market. It's going to help pull on some of the bergamot notes in the Star of Bombay. Then 50 ml of the Star of Bombay. Then we fill this full of ice. I'm just going to give it a little quick shake. Just gets that down to temperature very quickly, brings all those lovely flavours together, and then we add our vermouth. And we're going for a slightly wetter style martini here, so we're using the Martini Rosato, and we use 15 ml on this occasion, and then we're going to stir it. See what I did there? Shaking, stirred. So we're not shaking the vermouth, we're just combining it afterwards. The drink's going to be super, super cold, so it makes for a more refreshing martini. I mean, you never hear that really that often, you have a super cold, refreshing martini, right? So that's stirred down. And then just empty the ice out of that, so we've got a nice chill glass. And rather than olive or lemon or lime peel or anything like that, we just use a little bit of mint, spanked. I won't use that one because it went on the floor. Just tap it that way, and then put that inside. And strain the cocktail. Now, in a normal world, I would tend to fine strain cocktails like this, but actually, I really want all those little ice shards that you get from when you shook the cocktail quite hard. It gets a lovely little pink hue on top of the cocktail into this gorgeous little Nick and Nora glass. And that, for me, it should be called a shaken and stirred martini, but as you can see, shaken and starred. Thank you very much.
Okay. So that is sample number 2, of course, for you to enjoy. And for one lucky person, if you can answer the question, how does the master distiller of Bombay Sapphire take her martini?
Oh, good question. Daily. Daily, nice.
That's a good question. That's a
We're
good
looking
answer.
for ratios here, please. Ratios.
5 to 1, 3 to 1.
Wrong way.
1
half a gin with its garnish.
No?
You don't want any
Oh, you're too kind, you're too kind. So you'd just be like that, right? You're like, what was it? Yeah. What, 1 to 1? No, you're going the wrong way. Keep going. Not quite as much as 20.
4 to 1.
Oh.
On Montgomery, 15 to 1.
We have a
That man,
winner!
we have a winner.
Was that Simon? Well done, Simon. So you get the shaken and stirred martini, Simon. Yeah, it's super nice and cold. I appreciate the martini that's in all of your little tasting cups. It's been poured a short while ago, and it's in plastic cups, so it's not going to be as cold as you might experience. But definitely do try this cocktail at home or in your bars. You'll have the recipe. You can download the recipe from the presentations. Cool. Moving on to the next set of cocktails, we thought one of my actual personal favourites of a classic cocktail is the Aviation. I'm really pleased also that Simon mentioned the Aviation on there, created by Hugo Ensling in 1916. And I personally think it works exceptionally well with the Bombay Sapphire. So to make a classic Aviation, I like to take the juice of about 15 ml of lemon juice. Use a citrus press. That goes in our shaker. Then I love to use the Luxardo Maraschino. Exactly the same, equal parts. 15 ml of that goes in. A couple of dashes of creme de violette. I know the original cocktail from 1916 did have it in. The Savoy cocktail book, several years later in the 1930s, didn't have it in. But I believe it works very well. It tends to pull out on some of the botanical notes. I won't mention which one, because that might actually come up as the question.
Yeah.
Who said that? What? So we do 60 ml of the Bombay Sapphire, and then actually, because you've got some quite bold flavours in there, you can really give the cocktail quite a good shape. I've never been on a stage before. You wouldn't believe it, right?
Your world's the stage, then.
And then we're just going to finish off by straining it into a nice chilled glass. So the colder the better. Fine straining on this occasion. Make sure we get those little shards of ice out. As such. And then, to garnish, we have some lovely, gorgeous little maraschino cherries, which go in the bottom there, and a little bit of lemon peel, which sort of spritz out over the top, waft it around, and then don't put it in, just discard it. And that is your sort of classic 1916 Aviation.
Okay, so the question for the Aviation, obviously, sample number 3 in your sample cups. And I will just point out that if you've already had a cocktail, you can't win another one, Simon. In general, what botanical shines in an Aviation?
Well done.
The man a drink. Okay, so I'm just going to flick the slide back slightly. Obviously, I'm going to talk briefly about Sapphire. I've mentioned I'm sure you all know Bombay Sapphire, I hope you do. I've mentioned the core Bombay Sapphire botanicals. I'll go over them again. Juniper, angelica, coriander, lemon peel, cassia, almond, licorice, and orris. On top of those, you have grains in paradise and Cuba berries. So the three gins we have on the stage here actually all have those botanicals in various proportions. And it creates what I call the Bombay backbone. I mentioned it earlier. So I've put the GC on here of, this top trace in blue is Star of Bombay, and the bottom trace is Bombay Sapphire. Now to read the GC, there's just a couple of points you need to know. Every single peak is a new compound. It's a different compound, different flavour compound. And the size of the peak shows the relative abundance within that gin. But just by looking at this GC, you can't tell how the gin is going to taste, because there's going to be some compounds in there that just don't fly by GC, that don't show up. But what I do like to use GC for is as a comparative tool. It's really, really cool, particularly when you've got 3 gins that share those common botanicals, to look at them and see whether you can see any differences on the spectra. So what can you see here? Well, the Bombay backbone is alpha-pinene, beta-pinene. This is sabanine, so obviously the pinene are from juniper. Sabanine's also in juniper, but it's very prevalent in Cuba berries. We've got myrcene here, which is in juniper. Limonene, and then this guy here is linalool, which is in coriander. Now you can see that in both Sapphire and Star, they have those key botanical compound flavour elements. What you can also see in Star is you have this new peak here, and you'll have to believe me, but slightly unresolved under the linalool peak is linolyl amino benzoate, which is also in Star as well, which is not in Sapphire. So what are these? Well, this peak here is beta-phellandrine, which is a peppery minty note, which comes across in Star and doesn't in Sapphire. And then linolyl amino benzoate under here is kind of a heady, musty floral note, which I like to think comes from the angelica seed. Whereas, you know, if you've ever smelled angelica seed, it's that really musty, dusty, floral flavour. I really love the flavour, the nose on those botanicals. The other thing to take from this juicy is if you look at the Star peaks, they all seem slightly higher, slightly larger than the Bombay Sapphire, and that's where you're seeing that slow distillation come through, that sort of more flavour intensity in the Star gin versus the Sapphire. Okay.
Awesome. So as my little modern day twist on the Aviation, what did I decide to do? And this isn't rocket science. We switched out the lemon juice for grapefruit juice.
Ooh, sorry.
Is that it? Yeah, that was it. That's all we did. But there's another little twist to it. So in here, I've got some freshly squeezed pink grapefruit juice, the Maraschino, the Bombay Sapphire, no creme de violette this time, and then a quick shaky. We're not going to do the spritz, because what we've actually got as the garnish, rather than just plain, I say plain, there's nothing plain about maraschino cherries, so they're delicious. With the maraschino cherries, we've infused them in a little bit of vanilla and pink grapefruit. So they're going to be added to the cocktail, and that'll just slowly leach out a little bit extra flavour. And I just think the grapefruit and maraschino work exceptionally well. Now, I know you're the scientist there, right?
I am.
But I do love to get a bit of a long word in my presentations. Matthew knows what's coming. I love the word flavour transmogrification. It's an awesome word. When you drink a drink that's been it means you've been transmogrified, right? And on this occasion, we're bringing a little bit of vanilla with the grapefruit, and it makes a lovely chocolatey note. And also the cherry and the maraschino with the grapefruit also makes a rose note. So instead of going for the violette and the violet notes, we're sort of modernising it a bit. So rather than being a little bit old-fashioned with violets, we're going more towards the rose and chocolate stuff. And that is my Monday interpretation of an aviation.
Okay, so that's sample number 4, and the question to win the full-size Aviation is, which ingredient in an Aviation smells slightly horrible, but tastes super sweet and lovely?
Exactly. It's incredible, right? It's like the smell is...
If you've never smelt it, it's really not very pleasant, but it's a lovely, lovely drink.
But when you mix it in a cocktail, it's absolutely fabulous. It really, really does work exceptionally well.
No, it's the Maraschino Liqueur. It smells like you've dragged it out the back of a cupboard and it's been there, it's gone off, it's oxidized and it's gone dusty. But then you taste it and it's sweet and cherry and blossomy and floral.
It's quite musky and dusty.
Yeah. You're up next.
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of famous weeks. Does anybody know that it is Negroni week this week? Yeah. Woo. So we thought we'd do a Negroni at the end here. If anyone went to the last Gin Guild dinner, you'll notice that we did a little twist on a Negroni at the dinner on arrival there. It's also National No Straws Week. That's the thing. We actually banned straws from Laverstoke and all Bacardi events many, many years ago. No plastic straws, actually no straws whatsoever, just to help with the sustainability point of view. So Negroni, I can't imagine ever drinking a Negroni with a straw. But I just thought I'd bring that up. But yeah, it's National Negroni Week and also National No Straws Week. So we're going to move on to the Negroni. We're going to make the classic first, equal parts. Take a beautiful little cut glass kind of tumbler, fill it for a base, and then actually start off with pretty much the lowest ABV ingredient first. We're going to do 30 ml of your Martini Rosso, 30 ml of the Campari, so just some lovely orange notes coming through in there, and then 30 ml of our Bombay Sapphire East, which has got the lemongrass and the black pepper in there. Slightly higher ABV as well with this gin. In that goes. And then we just stir a little bit and we garnish it with a little classic sort of orange peel twist. You could use a wedge if you like, you could use a twist, it's entirely up to you. That's the thing with a Negroni, well that's the thing with any cocktail, right? Have it how you like it. Same with the Martini. So I love these little OXO peelers, by the way. Perfect for getting a really neat little peel. And that is our little simple Negroni going on.
Okay, so as you enjoy sample number 5, the question to win the full-size Negroni. What was the name of the bartender that created and served Count Camillo Negroni his drink in Florence in 1919? Thank you.
Hey, we didn't want to make it hard, right? It's a really neat story. I'm sure many of you know it, but Count Camillo Negroni went into Cafe Sassoni in 1919. He was used to drinking Americanos, which was your Campari with Martini Rosso and soda water. And he'd had a bit of a tough day, right? He went to the bartender, his very good friend, Fosca, and he said, can you give me a bit more booze, a bit more of a kick to this cocktail? And Fosca, being very creative in 1919, he basically took the soda out of the drink and added gin. And there you go. And you've got your Negroni. What a brilliant story, right? And so Count Camillo Negroni.
Okay, so the last bit of science for today, Bombay Sapphire East then. It was created, I think, to address the need for a gin that mixed really well with American tonics. It was unavailable in the UK for a while, apart from in global travel retail, so you probably saw it in duty-free as you passed through the airport. But I have heard that it will be on shelves near you sometime soon in the UK. I think it's lovely. You should get your hands on some. Essentially, again, it's got that Bombay backbone, which, if I just go back, you can see in here. So again, alpha-pinene, beta-pinene. You've got your saponine, myrcene, and limonene, linalool over here, and terpene 4-eol, which I didn't mention before. There's actually not too many new peaks in Bombay Sapphire East versus Bombay Sapphire, but the big thing to notice, and I think you can taste it if you ever taste the two gins side by side neat, is the limonene peak. So in Sapphire, most of the limonene is going to be coming from the lemon peel, a little bit of coriander and from the juniper, but mainly it's from lemongrass in the Sapphire East. So the lemongrass really dials up that citrus, and you can see that in the GC here. Okay, that leads us on to our last cocktail.
Perfect. So, like I mentioned before, if you've been to the last Gin Guild event, we did a cold brew coffee Negroni, and that's what we're going to do right here for a little bit of consistency. Essentially, we're going to move away from your Campari, move to the newly launched in the UK, the Martini Bitters. We're going to change out the Martini Rosso to this absolutely gorgeous Rabina. If you've not tried it, definitely do try it. If you want to come up afterwards and have a taste, it's just got so much more complexity, real bold kind of flavour to it. And then we took Bombay Sapphire East with those lovely spicy notes. But we also took some Arabica Mozzo coffee beans that have been locally roasted in Hampshire. We just essentially cold compounded it, steeped it, whatever you like, cold brewed in the gin with the coffee beans, and we've just got this little mixture. So we're going to do the same really, equal parts. So we're going to do with 30 ml of the cold brew coffee East. Go in the glass, in the Martini Bitter. and then the Martini Rubino. I would say the Negroni is an interesting one. I personally love it, but you can imagine for a lot of consumers, it's quite a challenging drink. You know, it's got some really bold flavours in there, and certainly, you know, bitterness is one of the last basic tastes that we tend to appreciate. So perhaps it's not a cocktail that you'd enjoy maybe necessarily at 18, 19 years old, just as you perhaps start getting into drinking culture. This got some of the sweetness, because there's been no heat added to the coffee. You don't get any of those kind of bitter notes within there. I think the coffee just works exceptionally well with the Martini bitters. So I'm just going to give this a little bit stir down, and rather than the peel, we're just taking a wedge and just giving that a gentle squeeze over the top of the drink, placing it in. Just gives it a little bit more dilution, but a fruity dilution rather than just from the water from the ice. And that's my cold brew coffee Negroni.
And I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint most of you in the audience. We don't have a question for this Negroni. Instead, there's somebody sat in the audience who it's his first ever trip out of India, and on his second day in the UK, he made his way all the way down to Laverstoke to come and tour the distillery with me. So, Jay, the cold coffee Negroni is for you. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I kind of like to thank you all very much indeed for listening. I hope you all enjoy drinking classic cocktails. I hope you enjoy creating brand new cocktails as well. If you ever come down to Laverstoke, I would absolutely be delighted to make you a drink called the Laverstoke, after the name of Laverstoke Mill, which is a brand new cocktail which we'd like to get out there. But, you know, there's no reason why you can't take classic cocktails and then modernise them. You know, many of them are classics because they've stood the test of time, because they were super delicious back in their day, right? But then also tastes do change over time, like with food, with cars, clothing, music. Things move on and tastes change, so don't be afraid to adapt some of these classics if it works, of course. You can't just do something just to be cool, right? It's got to work and be a great drink, ultimately. Just finally, I did want to say, I wondered if we could give a massive round of applause to Ashley, just here, because Ashley pre-batched all of these cocktails over the last few days, brought them up, served them. Ashley is our new advocacy host at Laverstoke Mill, so if anybody would like to go to Laverstoke and be hosted around, please do contact myself or Ashley, come see us afterwards. We'd be delighted to show you around Laverstoke Mill in Hampshire.